Welcome to today's session with Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. Before we dive into today's topic, let's quickly go over a few housekeeping details. Throughout this session, you can send in your questions using the chat feature, and we'll do our best to address them. If you're interested in staying updated on future events, be sure to follow Dr. Campbell on all social media channels using the handle @Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. To contact Dr. Campbell outside of this event, simply scan the QR code that appears on your screen. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our host, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of our 30-minute growth moments. So, for those of you who have been listening in since June, you know that I started bringing guests on, and I actually did not have tonight's session scheduled. I literally added it on yesterday after having, I'm going to say, the 50th conversation with an individual who is struggling with regards to their career choices. So tonight's session probably won't be 20 minutes or 30 minutes long. It'll probably be about 20 minutes. I want to allow opportunity for you all to ask questions. And before we begin, let's see where you all are joining us tonight. So let's see who's with us. Type in the chat and let us know where you are streaming from. And so while we're waiting on that to come in, let me just share with you some of the conversations that I've had with individuals that I'm coaching or individuals that I just know from day to day life. There are some folks who are frustrated with the career choice that they've made because they haven't been able to find a job. There are other individuals who currently have a career or they have a job and they're frustrated. They are showing up to the front door and they're just moving into inside of the door very slowly because they're struggling internally. They're struggling with change that has happened at their organization. And so I could spend an hour just going over the examples. The bottom line is so many people are hurting, they're unhappy, but they're staying in the same place because they got to pay their bills. And I will be the first person to tell you that I've stayed in something too long and regretted it. Relationships, employment, friendships, stayed too long. And had I known better, I would have put together a plan in place to move to the next place. It's life, right? So the title of today's presentation is Hamburgers to Healthcare. And so I thought for today's session, I would make it twofold, right? First, I want to tell you just a little bit about my journey from hamburgers to healthcare. But then I want to just give you guys some words of wisdom, some motivation, so that you can pivot and get to where you want to be, where you belong. Growing is scary. Moving on after being at a place for 20 years is scary. My cousin Felicia was working at a hospital here in the Chicagoland area for about 25 years. She started at a very young age, and I've watched her be a mother to her twin daughters and her son, and now a grandmother. And I watched her pour into them as well as be amazing at her job. But guess what? They wouldn't promote her, primarily because she didn't have a degree. So, guess what? She went back to school, she got that degree, and guess what? Still didn't get promoted. This year, she finished her master's degree. But prior to finishing her master's degree, She got the courage to make a change. Yes, she had been on that job for 25 years, but she realized that she was worth making the change. And so she put the plans in motion, and she is extremely busy, but also happy and feeling appreciated. So, hamburgers to healthcare. When I was in high school, I worked at McDonald's, and I very quickly rose up in the McDonald food chain, if you will. No pun intended. But I went from a crew chief where I was training others because I made it my mission to do more than be a cashier. I knew internally there was more to Lisa Campbell other than being a cashier. So I went from cashier to crew chief to swing manager to a shift manager. And in 1992, 1 year after graduating high school, I had a baby. I was making $5.90 an hour, and that was not enough to cover milk and diapers and all the things. How many of you in the audience today has ever worked at a fast food restaurant? If you have, type me in the chat and let me see what's going on over in the chat. We have someone that's streaming in from Tennessee. And hey, by the way, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Growth Motivator, or you can also subscribe to my other YouTube channel, which is Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. So let's see if anybody else besides me has worked at McDonald's, and I'll just continue on. Hey, now you're probably thinking, McDonald's, is that like and I see Tracy worked at McDonald's too. Like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. You may not realize it, but that experience, which for me back in the day was kind of rough, is what made me into who I am today. As a manager, I had an opportunity to manage people, processes. I went to Hamburger University, and those are all skills that I still use today. You may be thinking, why? I know what it's like to be the cashier and people thinking, oh, she's just a cashier. I started from the bottom. Now I'm here, right? So I know what it's like to continue to grow and deal with people who didn't want me to grow, who didn't value me as a person. But one of the things that I did as I was growing, I was helping others grow. They wanted to work with me because they knew I would train them something new. And me personally, if I'm not learning anything new, I actually get bored. But I'm also going to tell you something else, keeping it real. If I'm in a situation, friendship, relationship, employment situation where I'm being devalued, disrespected, I'm not going to stay. You know why? I owe me. If you're rolling up to the job every day and you're in the car crying, or you're at home on Teams and you're drinking alcohol the whole day you're working, there is a problem. And only you can prevent forest fires. No, only you can make a change. But you've got to put in a plan. Yes, 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 yes. It's going to be scary. You've heard me say this before, and I'm going to mention it again. I am comfortable being uncomfortable. Type that in the chat for me. There's about 6 of you here live that I can see. I want you to type that in the chat. I'm going to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because if you just go through life and you're comfortable all the time, you're not going to see the growth that you want to see. So let me get into just a couple of key points that I wanted to make tonight. So, number one, if I can navigate from hamburgers to healthcare, you can navigate to whatever destination you set your eyes on. You need to understand that something that is delayed doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And me, I am rejection proof. What do I mean by that? I'm not going to allow someone to tell me no. Not right now is okay. But no does not work for me. Not yet. Right? Okay, I can't have it today, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to ever get it. You have to make up in your mind that you owe you to go after what you want. You've got to fight. Are there going to be some nights that you're going to cry? Absolutely. Are there going to be some detours? If you use a GPS to drive your car, I guarantee you, you've been rerouted, but you made it to your destination. Focus on the destination. But the first thing you got to do is start with a plan. Every big journey starts with a small step. Just one little small step. All you got to do is take that step. Sometimes, and I'm just talking about me, that first step, whew, is the hardest step. But once you get that first step under your belt, you're like, whoa, I think I can do this. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. You want to just remind yourself that I'm doing the best that I can do now, but there's more that I deserved, that I work hard for, and I'm going to continue. So, first up, you got to write yourself a personal mission and vision and slogan. Think about Nike, just do it. Think about McDonald's. I'm loving it, right? All of those big companies started small. You may not have the financial resources to do what you want to do on the larger scale today. But if you make a step, make a plan, write the vision. The vision, whew, is not about where you are today, it's about where you want to be. But only you can write that vision and you can make that vision plain in a matter that you can understand. My journey from hamburgers to healthcare was not without detours. I had so many opportunities where I was able to learn, grow, and improve. Now, I didn't say mistakes, right? It was a learning experience. Like, for example, my very first car was a Dodge Neon, 1995 Dodge Neon. Had 5,000 miles on it. It was a demo car, and the interest rate was like 35%. My auntie Phyllis was like, whoa. But guess what? I learned from that experience, and I will never get a car at 35% interest rate ever again. But if I had not experienced that, I would not have known that that was not the path that I needed to go. But honestly, maybe that was the path, right? I didn't want to ask anybody to co sign for me. So I had to do what I needed to do to get to where I was going. How many of you have experienced those moments where you made a choice? It wasn't necessarily the correct choice, or some people would say they wouldn't do it. Now, I needed a car, right? I had a special needs daughter. I needed to get around. And so I couldn't do that on the bus because it was wearing me out. As you're going through this process, you're going to change. There are some people and some things that you have to leave behind. And I got a question for you. This is something that my grandfather said to my aunt, and it literally stuck with me. Are you going, or will you be left behind? Where you are today, August 30th, 2023, should not be where you are August 30th, 2024. You've got to put a plan in place. But it's all about repetition, resilience. I think about when I work out with the personal trainer. And sometimes he has me, do a move where I'm lifting something, and sometimes I can't do it fully as he has explained to me. I do a modified version. The thing is, I stay in the ring and I keep fighting. You're going to be hit with a left and a right. And sometimes taking it is what makes you stand up stronger and continue on your destination. The path is not going to be easy. Your path is not going to be like everybody else's path, but you just got to stay the course in your own journey. How many of you are ready to take that first step? If you are in the chat, type, I'm ready to take my first step. I'm ready to take my first step. That is, and I'm telling you from experience, that first step is so hard. I have spent and I am spending some sleepless nights. I am spending some days where I break out and I start crying. But it's all a part of me shedding my weight that is holding me hostage and preventing me from going to where I'm destined to go. So stay in the race, keep fighting, and you will get there. Trust me. And don't be so consumed by the time frames that others put on you. I did that in 3 months. I did that in 6 years. I remember going through my doctoral journey and I watched my classmates finish in 4 years. I finished in 9 years. So what? I finished. I think a lot of times we put a time stamp, a time frame on a process, and that's what gets us discouraged because I said I was going to do it in a year and it didn't happen. There is something that I've been wanting to do, and my husband would ask me, "When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it?" And part of the problem that I didn't do it was because I was afraid. And in my new book, Grow With Me, if you don't have a copy, you got to get a copy. Go to my website, drlisalcampbell.org, and grab a copy. I decided that it was time for me to execute faith over fear. In fact, I stand corrected. It was my CPA, my certified public accountant. She said, "Sis, you got to execute faith over fear." And I realized I owe me to take that first step. And let me just tell you, once I took that first step, a sense of peace came over me that let me know it was going to be all right. And I'm continuing taking more steps. And guess what? When you take the baby steps, that gets you on your way. And then the steps start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can see your destination. Don't worry about the journey because it's going to be up, it's going to be down, but you can get there if you take that first step. You have to celebrate your small wins, right? Everything is not going to be perfect, but every time you have an accomplishment, do something nice for yourself. Take yourself on a walk, right? Your heart will appreciate it. Take yourself out for a nice dinner. Do whatever you have the means to do, but celebrate yourself. Don't wait for others to celebrate you. One problem that I have is when people die, there's a funeral, and people get up and talk about, oh, they were this nice person and they did all these things. Listen, I'm gonna tell you about me. I don't want nobody standing over me crying and talk about how nice I was and all the good things I did. I want you to tell me now. Tell people now that you appreciate them, that you love them, that you support them. Because when they're dead, they can't hear you. Hmm. All right. So, couple of things. So, I talked about celebrating the small wins. The other thing is I got two more points and it's 21 minutes, so I'm doing good. My husband is like a little ticked at me because he's like, "You planned a dinner at our house at 7 o'clock and you're not even here. So I got to do 30 minutes so I could get home and be there when our guests arrive. But anyway, listen, you have to continually learn. And I'm not talking about going to school, reading books, okay? Reading books that will help you grow. If you look behind me, you will see my book, Grow With Me, but you will also see other books that I've read and I am or reading. Why? Because I have to continue to grow. When I'm in a situation, when I'm being devalued, disrespected, and I can't grow, guess what I do? I go, ooh, that was good. Let me say that again. If I'm in a situation where I'm being devalued, belittled, disrespected, and I can't grow, it's time for me to go. Type in the chat, go. If you know it's time for you to go, type go. If you know it's time for you to do something for you, type do. Because guess what? Next year, this time, I don't want you in that same place that you're in today. Surround yourself with people who are positive. You cannot grow when you got what I like to call the Debbie Downers in your circle. The Debbie Downers, the people who don't support you, could be family members. So you've got to get a community of people who can help you grow. People who are in your circle, your regular circle, probably not the community that you need because they see you for who you are and what you're doing, but they may not see you for who you could be, who you want to be. Some people say, well, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? The same reason you want to work 9 to 5, right? Why do you want to be a singer? Why do you want to be a poet? Why do you want to be a dancer? Why does everybody have an opinion about all the things you want to be and do? If you have it in your heart to change careers, put together a plan to make it happen. Don't allow yourself to sit in the space. Now, let me just tell you, now don't be like the young folks. When I say the young folks, and I'll just give you this one example and then I'm wrapping up. I remember when I quit my job at McDonald's to go to school for healthcare, my father says, so you quit your job before you had another one. Now, I don't recommend that strategy. But, if you're in a toxic situation where it's hurting you, where you're struggling and you're not growing, it's time to go. Well, listen, let me just recap what I talked about today. So, number one, I talked about continuing to be resilient, continuing to stay in the ring. The other thing I want to call out, sometimes people say, well, on your resume, don't include something that's 10 years old. Well, what if there's a skill that I learned 20 years ago that made me who I am today? I'm going to put that in my summary of qualifications. I've managed people, processes, and resources. A lot of times, who we are today is based on past positions, past relationships, past situations. Make sure that you keep your resume current. Because guess what? This is the reality. Just like you're thinking about navigating a career choice or transition, what are we seeing happen today? Mergers, acquisitions. Don't be in a situation where your position is phased out and you don't have a B plan and a C plan that you can immediately execute. You know why? When an organization tells you that your services are no longer needed, the first thing you're going to do is be emotional. You don't want to do a resume. You don't want to eat, sleep, or think. You just want to go into the room and sit in the dark and cry. I will never forget in 2010, I was, my position was eliminated. And I was working for a company where they were in Tennessee and I was in Chicago. And so my manager told me she was coming to Chicago. We met at a hotel by the airport. When I walked into the room, the human resource manager was there. I knew what was going down. So we chatted. And at the end, I said, "Thank you for the opportunity. I've learned so much being here." And I walked away with my dignity and my B plan and my C plan and never looked back. Don't get caught off guard. If you want to make a career choice, you've got to put the plan, a career change, you've got to put the plans in motion. Take yourself to Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, or wherever you like to go and sit down with a piece of paper and just write out your plan. If you struggle with this, you can contact me and we can sit down face to face or on Zoom and work through a plan so that you can execute. Sometimes all you got to do is see the plan on paper and then take that first step. Well, guys, don't forget if you're on YouTube or if you're not, please subscribe to my channel, The Growth Motivator. And this has been Dr. Lisa L. Campbell with Hamburgers to Healthcare Navigating Career Choices. And I'll take a look at the chat and see if there are any questions. And we can go from there. I don't see any questions so far, but I will wait a few minutes and we'll. It won't always be like this. That one line gives me some motivation to make it through the day. I'll see you all next week where I will resume having a special guest. Thank you so much.